Mamma's face looked as if it were in terrible pain. She stood up and spoke slowly and deliberately. I have no desire to marry you, Luis, now or ever. Frankly, your offer offends me. Theo Luis's face hardened like a rock and the muscles twitched in his narrow neck. You will regret your decision, Ramona. You must keep in mind that this house and those grapes are on my property. I can make things difficult for you. Very difficult. I will let you sleep on the decision, for it is more than generous. Tio Luis and Tio Marco put on their hats and left. The lawyer looked uncomfortable and began gathering documents. Vultures, said Abuelita. Can he do this? Asked Mamma. Yes, said the lawyer. Technically he is now your landlord. But he could build another house, bigger and more pretentious, anywhere on the property, said Mamma. It is not the house that he wants, said Abuelita. It is your influence he wants. People in this territory love Sixto and respect you. With you as his wife, Luis could win any election. Mamma stiffened. She looked at the lawyer and said, Please officially relay this message to Luis. I will never, ever change my mind. I will do that, Ramona, said the lawyer, but be careful. He is a devious, dangerous man. The lawyer left and Mamma collapsed into a chair, put her head in her hands, and began to cry. Esperanza ran to her. Don't cry, Mamma. Everything will be all right. But she didn't sound convincing, even to herself, because all she could think about was what Tio Luis had said, that Mamma would regret her decision. That evening, Hortensia and Alfonso sat with Mamma and Abuelita discussing the problem. Esperanza paced, and Miguel quietly looked on. Will the income from the grapes be enough to support the house and the servants? Said Mamma. Maybe, said Alfonso. Then I will stay in my home, said Mamma. Do you have any other money?
Who's Alfonso?
The housekeeper's husband. Remember her dad's friend?
Oh, he went with the son to find the dad.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other money? Asked Alfonso. I have money in the bank, announced Abuelita. And then more quietly she added, Luis's bank. He would prevent you from taking it out, said Hortensia. If we need help, we could borrow money from our friends. From Senor Rodriguez, said Esperanza. Your uncles are very powerful and corrupt, said Alfonso. They can make things difficult for anyone who tries to help you. Remember, they are the banker and the mayor. The conversation continued to go in circles. Esperanza finally excused herself. She walked out to Papa's garden and sat on a stone bench. Many of the roses had dropped their petals, leaving the stem and the rose hip, the green grape-like fruit of the rose. Abuelita said the rose hip contained the memories of the roses, and that when you drank tea made from it, you took in all the beauty that the plant had known. These roses have known Papa, she thought. She would ask Hortensia to make a rose hip tea tomorrow. Miguel found her in the garden and sat beside her. Since Papa died, he had been polite, but still had not talked to her. Ansa, he said, using her childhood name. Which rose is yours? In recent years, his voice had become a deep throttle. She hadn't realized how much she missed hearing it. The sound brought tears to her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. She pointed to the miniature pink blooms with delicate stems that climbed up the trellis. And where is mine? Asked Miguel, nudging her like he did when they were younger and told each other everything. Esperanza smiled and pointed to the orange sunburst next to it. They have been young children the day Papa had planted one for each of them. What does it all mean, Miguel? There are rumors in town that Luis intends to take over the ranch, one way or another. Now that it seems true, we will probably leave for the United States to work. Esperanza shook her head as if to say no. She could not imagine living without Hortensia, Alfonso, and Miguel. My father and I have lost faith in our country. We were born servants here, and no matter how hard we work, we will always be servants. Your father was a good man. He gave us a small piece of land and a cabin. But your uncles, you know their reputation. They would take it all away and treat us like animals. We will not work for them. The work is hard in the United States, but at least there we have a chance to be more than servants. But Mama and Abuelita, we need you. My father says he won't leave until it is necessary. He reached over and took her hand. I'm sorry about your papa. His touch was warm and Esperanza's heart skipped. She looked at her hand in his and felt the color rushing to her face. Surprised at her own blush, she pulled away from him. She stood and stared at the roses. An awkward silence built a wall between them. She glanced quickly at him. He was still looking at her, with eyes full of hurt. Before Miguel left her there, he said softly, You were right, Esperanza. In Mexico we stand on different sides of the river. Esperanza went up to her room, thinking that nothing seemed right. She walked slowly around her bed, running her hand over the finely curved post. She counted the dolls lined up on her dresser. 13, one for each birthday. When Papa was alive, everything was in order, like the dolls lined up in a row. She put on a long cotton nightgown with hand-sewn lace, picked up the new doll, and walked to the open window. Looking out over the valley, she wondered where they would go if they had to live somewhere else. They had no other family except Abuelita's sisters, and they were nuns in a convent. I won't ever leave here, she whispered. A sudden breeze carried a familiar, pungent smell. She looked down into the courtyard and saw the wooden box still sitting on the patio. It held the papayas from Señor Rodriguez, the ones that Papa had ordered that should have been served on her birthday. Their overripe sweetness now pervaded the air with each breath of wind. She crawled into bed beneath the linens edged with lace. Hugging the doll, she tried to sleep, but her thoughts kept returning to Tío Luis. She felt sick at the thought of Mama marrying him. Of course, she had told him no. She took a deep breath, still smelling the papayas and Papa's sweet intentions. Why did Papa have to die? Why did he leave me and Mama? She closed her eyes tight and did what she tried to do each night. She tried to find the dream, the one where Papa was singing the birthday song. The author uses similes and metaphors to compare two things so that we can better understand what's happening in the text. A simile is when an author uses like or as to compare two things. Let's look at the example above. The author is comparing the tíos to calabaza. The tíos are like the calabaza in a garden, spreading themselves out in their house. Our next example is of a metaphor. It compares two things without using the words like or as. Here, Abuelita calls the tíos vultures. Vultures are birds of prey who usually prey on dead animals. Do you think Abuelita is correct in calling them vultures?